It is more than your typical Tuesday night in the Commonwealth and in the country as we watch election 2024 results rolling in. I'm Angie Miles saying thank you for joining us on air and online on vpm.org for the latest information. Here is how things stand in some of the big races we're watching this evening. We're talking congressional race, District 2 in Virginia, Kiggins versus Smozzle. Right now, with more than, close to all of the precincts reporting in, it looks like the incumbent Kiggins may retain her seat, 52, almost 53% to 48% almost for Smozzle. In District 7, Eugene Vindman and Derek Anderson. Vindman has been declared the winner by several outlets, 51.5 to 48.5%. And then the 10th district, we have Subramaniam versus Clancy, and we have the Democrat Subramaniam as the projected winner of that race as well. And that is not a huge surprise to a lot of people, but this one, I guess we could say is not a huge surprise either. Tim Kaine, the race called for him earlier this evening, almost 53% of the vote to about 47% of the vote for his challenger, Hung Cao. Of course, the spotlight districts are not the only contests happening here in Virginia. Several of the House races have been called already, and you can see that on our website, vpm.org. Also, Rich Maher, our trusted political analyst, is here to tell us what he's seeing and how that might affect the balance of power in the legislature. Rich?
Yeah, so Rob Whitman is going to be returned, a longtime incumbent in the 1st District, defeated a spirited effort by Democrat Leslie Mehta. Not a surprise there, that district is heavily Republican. And in the 4th District, Richmond's own beloved Jennifer McClellan held off a challenge from Republican Bill Moore, and again, also not a surprise there as well. Over in the 5th District, John McGuire was expected to win this race, but it wasn't so much to defeating Gloria Witt, but also a write-in campaign from the Republican he defeated in the primary, incumbent Bob Good. So McGuire having to defeat a couple of challengers there. And then Ben Cline was a very early selection, a projected winner in the 6th District, and he'll be returning to Congress as well, Republican Ben Cline.
All right, very good. And if you can, stay with our stream on YouTube as we talk about some important election security matters and much more. We're also going to invite you to check in at vpm.org to see everything that's happening this evening. You are watching VPM News as we present Election 2024 coverage of the races impacting Virginians most. Here to watch the returns and to prognosticate for us about what things may mean is our Rich Maher, host of RVA's Got Issues, our political podcast, and a political analyst in his own right. Rich, we've been here in the thick of it this evening watching all of this, and when it comes to reading those political tea leaves, as it were, there have been a number of suggestions about certain districts in Virginia being possible bellwethers for the state or for the nation. And how is that looking to you so far?
Well, it's been so far a pretty good night for Democrats here in the Commonwealth. Eugene Vindman is being projected as the winner in the 7th District. Suhas Subramaniam being projected as the winner in the 10th District. Those races could have gone either way. Now, they're pretty close, particularly the 7th District, and we'll see what the final numbers come out as. But a lot of people around the country were looking to that race to determine which party would hold the House of Representatives and whether that vote total in a very purple district in a somewhat moderate state that tends blue like Virginia, whether that tells us anything about the state of the electorate. But it doesn't seem like it's any kind of like magic Rosetta Stone to the rest of the country. It seems like what we're learning from this election is that states are acting differently from other states, that the results in Florida aren't really telling us very much about the results in Virginia or about the results in Wisconsin. So the Commonwealth kind of stands alone, and what's happened here in Virginia tells us a bit about Virginia, but not as much about the rest of the country.
Okay. Well, at the national level, a good deal of attention has been placed on swing states and counties, and we have those counties in Virginia, places that have pivoted from Obama twice to Trump twice. And we've been checking to see how things might go for them this election year.
It's very much about change. People want something new. They want something better. And I think historically, Caroline is not afraid to change their minds on who they think is better.
And Caroline is talking about the big issues as well.
Obviously, the economy is one, immigration is another, a woman's right to choose. These are all things that are being talked about within this county. I think there's a lot of misinformation out there that a lot of our young people are getting. However, I do sense that there is a sense of excitement again.
The biggest issue I hear with Kamala is, well, I don't think she's qualified. There's a lot of talk about how repetitive she is and how kind of circulatory her speech is. And then for Donald Trump, I think people just are still, well, he's racist. And I think people just don't trust Donald Trump.
As a veteran and a devout Christian, Gabe Bell is most interested in
a heart for veterans, or at least the better interest of veterans in mind, our national security and, our economy. On topics like abortion, we try to find candidates that more align with what we believe is morally right, scripturally speaking.
Other evangelical residents of Caroline say they are hyper-focused on character.
Scripture talks about some of the traits that we ought to have. They ought not to be divisive. They ought not to be full of hateful rhetoric. It's our job to love everybody. And so character means everything.
If you had to make a prediction, who would you say Caroline's going to go for this time?
Don't know who's going to wind up winning, but I just know how important it is to vote. One of the things that we're pursuing at our church is we want to vote at a rate of 100%.
No matter who it is, we pray that God blesses them in their time, because they are still, whoever it is going to be our president,
It appears that in 2024, Pivot County voters are poised to move towards whichever candidate they truly believe will deliver change that is much more than a campaign promise. And another one of those 5 pivot localities is in the mountains of Virginia, just outside of Charlottesville. Here's what we heard when we went to Nelson County. Welcome to Nelson County's Route 151, the Craft Beverage Trail. Nelson, in the fall, is a place for sightseeing, music, festivals, and spirits of many types. Greg and Alice Brown moved here several years ago.
It was so beautiful here, and the people here are so nice, and you go down the road and everybody waves to you, and it's like, well, who are they waving at?
Yeah, it's like there's no strangers here. Everybody waves to everybody.
You fell in love.
In one of the most idyllic settings in Virginia, the Browns say election talk is everywhere. At the gas station, the grocery store, wherever people gather. And what are people saying?
They want the border shut. They want to be able to afford to buy groceries. And that's 2 biggies.
As one of 5 pivot counties in the state, Nelson went for Obama in 2008 and 2012 before voting for Trump in 2016 and 2020. The Browns think Nelson will go in the Trump column again. Greg Brown says the change from Obama to Trump does not seem strange at all to him when he reflects on what voters are really after.
Nelson County is a blue-collar community. They work hard, but they can't work hard enough sometimes to pay all their bills. Your blue-collar worker is paying for all the rich, paying for all the poor, paying for all the people in the middle. So they don't see politics has been changed from the status quo. Big companies are still getting the tax breaks. They're not paying taxes. They got record profits they're putting on the books, while the guy that's actually working for them can't pay these bills. Those folks didn't get the change they were really looking for from Obama, but they're still looking for change. And that's all Trump is selling, is change. Doesn't really have a plan, but he's going to fix everything, right? That's why people are still staying Republican. They're still looking for change.
I don't know if anybody really has a solution for everything. And I don't think one person can change the world. And I think a lot of people are having their faith put in one person. I don't know the solution, but I just wish that we would come together more instead of being divided and work together, and hopefully one day that will happen.
It was very nice of them to invite us in to hear their thoughts on the issues and on the candidates. And we are watching now as people made their decisions. Some of them spoke about feeling very uncertain or saying that their neighbors were very uncertain. But today, a record number of people showed up many places to vote, so their decisions were made. We want to take a look at the mayoral returns once more in the city of Richmond, if we can, to see how things are shaping up there. And I'm going to invite my colleague Rich Marr to talk about what the screen is showing. We know that 5 of 9 rule applies, and we can't really say it enough because it's so unusual. Most people don't understand how this works.
Right, exactly. You could be looking at this and you think, well, Danny Avula is cruising to victory. And certainly the numbers are good for him, but there's no guarantee that those votes are not concentrated in 2, 3, 4, even 4 districts. He could win a majority of the vote, and if it's concentrated in 4 of 9 districts and he doesn't get that 5th district, then he does not win the race, and in fact has to move to a runoff if no one gets that 5 of 9. So Avula has to be encouraged. But in previous elections, in fact, the last 2 mayoral elections, we didn't really know that LeVar Stoney had won that election until the morning, the Wednesday morning, because of assigning the early vote to particular districts, making sure that provisional ballots were counted. It's not just if the race is close between candidates. It's if Avula could be winning with a ton of votes, but if in one district it's super close just in that one district, we have to know that he's won that district. So just a handful of provisional ballots might make the difference there.
And going back to the LeVar Stoney race, he was able to win with fewer than 40% of support from Richmond voters, but he had the key. He had the magical 5 districts.
Right. And so to some extent, you could argue that Stoney was elected without a majority, and that's true, but Stoney was elected with support from across the city, and that's what the system is designed for. It's supposed to make it so you cannot be elected mayor by a strong majority, again, because of the history of Richmond, a strong majority of, say, white voters in the West End, or alternatively, like black voters in the South Side and East End. You need to have support in different areas of the city. So any one of these candidates, if they want to win, they not only have to get a decent amount of votes, those votes have to be geographically distributed in the right way to win this particular and unique election.
Another local question dealt with the casino, a kind of a do-over question, if you will, although it was Richmond that declined to accept the casino, and Petersburg, it looks like, is going to get it after all.
Yeah, Petersburg, overwhelming support for that casino referendum, and one that Richmond had turned down twice. Even if there had been a little bit more support for the casino in Richmond, it was still very evenly divided. But Petersburg has embraced this idea of a casino. It looks like it might end up being like 80% support for yes for the casino. So they're going to move forward with that, and we'll see if it brings economic benefits to the city in the way that the Petersburg residents clearly want.
Yeah, the up and the down. The people who didn't want it in Richmond said it will attract crime, right, and it will, just be a vice that the city didn't need or want, while others saw jobs being created, economic opportunity, tourism improvement, and those sorts of things. And so, of course, we hope the best for Petersburg, which has had a number of struggles over the years, and maybe this will be a good thing for them.
Yeah, it's certainly the case. The supporters of the casino thought this is the perfect place for it because Petersburg is struggling economically. The opponents of the casino would argue that it's exactly the kind of vulnerable city that's going to suffer the worst from it. But again, we will see. We'll see what happens in Petersburg, and we do hope that this turns out well for the city.
School boards, that's another local issue that has become increasingly contentious over the last few years. School board meetings have become, let's say, rollicking places, yes, where, people haven't always enjoyed their time in those meetings, whether they were on the board or whether they were parents or community members going to debate or
try to persuade about a particular issue. We do have 4 localities, 3 in the Hampton Roads area, looking at school board elections this time around.
Yeah, and I think it's going to bring new interest to it out in Hampton Roads, right? Where you have some localities where they're having November elections for the first time. So presidential voters coming to the polls will look and see, oh, they've got to vote for school board. Same thing here in Richmond, where there's lots of people coming to vote for Kamala Harris or Donald Trump, and then they will see that there are school board candidates. And it is very important, right? School board is your local government that runs your school system. And they are democratically elected in most of the localities in the Commonwealth. And that vote sometimes is even more important than your vote for president. If you are in a family in the public schools and you have children in those schools, they're there for a very long time. So it's a really important decision, and we hope that voters knew what they were doing when they voted, and that they are going to be happy with the solutions they get.
All right, thank you very much, Rich. So, of course, not all of the races are being called right now, possibly not this evening at all, but you can follow all of our election coverage and stay up to date at vpm.org. I'm Angie Miles. For my colleague Rich Marr and myself, we thank you for being with us this evening, and we hope to see you again soon.